we are going to show you how to use a universal DIY kit in a real world application. We're going to be installing on this Ford EcoBoost, and it just so happens we've never done an install on this vehicle. So the first part of every install is to locate the wiper fluid sprayer for your back windshield. Some vehicles don't have them. This one, I can tell right now, it's right here. It's kind of deceiving because it's part of the tail light, but it's going to be a little nozzle. I suppose the easiest way to find it would be to go in the driver's seat and actually operate the sprayer, and then you'll tell where it's coming from. So this is right here. So next we're going to open the trunk, which I do not know how to do. There's no button. There's no latch down here. Okay, the latch is also part of the What? It opens sideways? Alright, so that shows how much I know about this vehicle. Apparently the door opens sideways. So the general steps that apply to every universal install is going to be to locate the wiper fluid sprayer for the rear windshield. You're going to take off all the trim and locate where that hose is for the rear sprayer. You're going to cut it, insert a T-fitting, and then route the line to a safe place to drill through the exterior of your car. We recommend not drilling through metal. So we advise taking extreme precautions when choosing the place to drill a hole through your vehicle. Due to the nature of our product, you do have to drill a hole to route the hose outside of your vehicle to attach to the spray nozzle. So just be sure you're not drilling anywhere where it's going to damage wires. It's going to damage a weather seal. You're drilling through metal, exposing bare metal, which could rust. So just be very careful when choosing where to drill the hole. So with that, we're going to go ahead and remove all these trim pieces, locate the OEM wiper fluid line, and then take apart the camera housing itself and figure out a place to drill the hole and attach the spray nozzle. If you don't have one, these plastic trim tool kits are very handy. Before you pull away the trim pieces, always check for electrical connections. A lot of times there's lights in the trim piece. This one doesn't have any, luckily. So we're going to set that aside. So here on the inside, I removed these little grommets, and I can see the wiper fluid hose here. And it seems like it travels down here and comes out here. So we're going to need to gain access to that and install the T-fitting. Just be 100% sure that it is indeed a wiper fluid hose before you cut it, because they look very similar to electrical cables. So now that I've located the wiper fluid hose and I know that I can tee into it, I'm going to figure out how to remove the camera housing and where to drill the hole for that. Because in the instance that you can tee into the hose, but there's no way to mount a sprayer and there's no way to attach our system, it's unfortunate. But at the very least, you don't want to cut the line and then not be able to install the product. Two 10mm nuts removed. And right off the bat, I can see there's plenty of margin here in the plastic piece to drill a hole for our wiper fluid line. There's room in the plastic to route the line to bring out here, but then there's another surface, metal surface behind it. So in that case, it helps to look where the wires are going, and there's always going to be some sort of rubber grommet weather seal. So we're going to route the wiper fluid hose right next to that electrical line and just make room in that rubber grommet for our hose. So now that we have this removed, we can figure out which spray nozzle we're going to use and attach it to the housing. So we'll dump this out, see what we got here. We have a check valve. That is used to prevent siphoning and backflow of the fluid. So you're going to install that somewhere between where the T-fitting is and where the sprayer is. Your T-fitting, pretty self-explanatory. So this is the 2-part urethane. This is what you're going to mix up, and this is what is actually going to attach the sprayer to the camera housing. An alcohol wipe and sandpaper. Both of these are for prepping the surface before you use the urethane. The popsicle stick is to mix up the urethane. These are the 2 J sprayers. So you'll see they are mirrored. If we look inside here, you'll see this side has a connector and this side doesn't. So this side has more room for the hose. The hose will come on this side of the sprayer and go through this plastic part somewhere over there where the connector is not. Next, we have these 3 3D printed shims. So these 3 parts are for adapting to the J sprayer if needed. So we have an 1/8 inch straight spacer. We have a 5-degree angled spacer. And we have a 1-inch radius curved spacer. So this one is for camera housings that are curved. It has a curve on one side and a flat on the other, such that you attach the curved part to the camera housing with the epoxy, and then you have a flat surface to attach the J sprayer to the adapter, like so. Similar with the angle, if it seems like the spray nozzle is not going to point at the camera and you need to angle it back one way or another, that is what that's for. And lastly, the straight spacer. This is for spacing away from the camera lens so that when you turn on your camera, you're not going to see the spray nozzle. So assessing what we have here, I'm going to say that with this spray nozzle attached directly to it, it will indeed be in the way of the camera. So we're going to use the straight spacer to space it away from the camera and attach our spray nozzle like so. We're going to use our sandpaper and scuff up the bottom surface where you're going to attach the sprayer. A bit of cross hatching. We're going to go one way and then perpendicular. The same thing with our spray nozzle. This is slightly tedious. If you have a vise or even pliers, you can hold it. Next, open up your alcohol wipe. Clean the surface of the camera housing, the spray nozzle, and both surfaces of the spacer. Wait for the alcohol to completely evaporate from the sprayer and all other components. If you add a heat gun, it speeds up the process. Once you're done with your installation card, it's actually a pretty good surface to mix up the epoxy or the urethane. Cut it open, use scissors, or carefully cut it with a knife. This is very important. You want to squeeze out the entire contents of both sides of the urethane. The ratio that you mix up is crucial to it setting properly. And if you only squeeze out a small amount, you cannot be sure that the ratio was correct. You do not need much, but you want to be sure that it is completely mixed. We're going to put some of the urethane on the spray nozzle. Be very careful not to get any urethane near the orifice down here at the bottom. We're going to put on our straight spacer. And then we're going to put some urethane on top of the spacer. And we're going to attach it to our camera housing as far back as possible. Once you have it in a good spot, we're gonna let this sit and we're gonna go finish up attaching the hose in the back of the vehicle. So now you can see I have the wiper fluid hose is teed into the OEM line. It's running behind the metal so that it's not in the way of any plastic trim. And it comes out right here where that rubber grommet is for the electrical connection. So it's been about a half an hour and the epoxy urethane is set to the point where it's tacky, but it's still not completely cured. So we're not going to attach this yet, but we can use this. This is a short section of the hose cut off of the 8-foot, and we can use it to determine where a good spot to route the hose is going to be. Because we have this entire area here, it makes it very easy. Sort of line it up where it seems like the hose would have a good bend radius, and I would say right about there is where we're going to want to go. We recommend using a step drill to drill through this plastic. The final size is going to be 5/16. So you can see now with that routed in there, it's going to connect to the spray nozzle nicely. So as I mentioned before, we're going to route the hose from the spray nozzle in through this plastic part that we just drilled the hole in, and then follow the wires through the rubber grommet. So we're going to need to make room in this rubber grommet to push the hose through while maintaining a weather-tight seal. So to do that, we're going to cut a small X. Be very careful not to cut your wires. And then push the hose through. And you want it to be tight such that it is weather tight, but not too tight that it's restricting the hose. We found that window cleaner or glass cleaner works very well as a lubricant to push this wiper fluid hose through. So we'll use a little bit of that. Push it through the rubber grommet. Now that you have all this together, we can go ahead and put this back on the vehicle. Make sure the grommet is seated properly so that it works as a weather seal. Okay, so now that you have the hose running out of the vehicle, check to make sure that the grommet is not too tight on the hose by blowing air into here. As long as you can blow air and it's not completely clogged, then the system will work. You can cut the excess, and we're going to connect the two with the check valve. With the check valve, there's an arrow on it. Make sure the arrow is pointing in the direction of flow towards the spray nozzle. So now all that's left to do is to reinstall the plastic trim and wait for the epoxy or the urethane to set completely, and then you can test out the system. So thanks for watching this install video. If you have any questions or comments, reach out to our customer service team, and we wish you the best of luck with your install. Thank you very much. Bye.